Welcome to Hands on History, week 3, I think this is. Hope everyone's having a good start to their April. Did everybody have a good weekend? Yeah? Okay, awesome. That is great. As I said before we got going, if you have song requests, I will take them in chat, and after our session, I will check their lyrics and make sure that they're appropriate for us to share with all of our friends before we get going on our sessions. But yeah, today we have Mike Erickson to come back and do Histories and Mysteries with us again today. I did want to remind folks, I will be watching our chat for questions, and so will Mike. We do expect behavior-wise that you treat this as if you were in school or if you came to History Colorado on a field trip. All right, so keep those respectful behaviors in mind as we go here, and I'm gonna go ahead and turn it right on over to Mike.
Awesome, thanks Josie. Welcome everyone. We're at Hands on History at home and we're doing History Mystery. If any of you were here a couple weeks ago, we actually did one history mystery where we actually guessed 4 different objects, and we're looking at objects that are really old, like more than 100 years old for a lot of these. Some of them have the same use that we use today, some of them don't, and some of them just look completely different than what we would use today. So we're gonna actually put our thinking caps on and really guess what some of these objects might be. And today we're looking at a lot of household objects. So there might be things in your house that would be used similarly or differently depending on what we're looking at here. But if you weren't here last time, I quickly wanted to show you all the things that we did last time. Now, if any of you was here for this one, we had this lovely thing right here, and a lot of you had a chance to guess what this one was, and this was a stocking stretcher. So we were able to keep our stockings or socks all stretched out since the material was much different. The next thing had to do with getting wrinkles out, and that was our sad iron. So here's an iron here that you would have heated up with a coal or wood burning stove. It would get really hot and you would iron with that instead of plugging it in. Another thing would have been the thing that a lot of people would get ready for in the morning, and here is a coffee mill or coffee grinder. So this was another object that we had used where we put coffee beans in here, and you can see this drawer is full of the coffee grounds to make the coffee. But then lastly, we were able to look at this object right here last time, and this is an ink blotter. Because if you remember, their old quills became fountain pens, and sometimes that ink did not dry fast, so this was able to soak up that ink that you had on your paper, letters, checks, or anything like that. So today, instead of trying to find out who I can have people guess, when we do an object today, we are going to put your guesses in the chat. So I just sent a message here, so make sure that you can see that message and that you can access the chat because I'll be looking at that to see if you have any guesses for the objects that we use today. So we have a few things here today, and one of the first things that I want to show you is going to be this item right here. Now I'll show it closely because you can see it's this large wire kind of design. It's got this lovely thing right here, and it has a handle right here. So you know you would have to use it, hold it, and figure out what this is. Now, initially, does anyone have a guess of what this thing might be? A hanger, I see that guess. Now, that's a good guess because it's still using the same kind of wire that they would have used for the hangers. I see a guess for a whisk. This would be a really large whisk, and that's a good guess if I had a really large pan to make some really big pancakes, maybe. A fly whacker. That's a good guess too. Now, when you look at this, do you think it would be able to hit a fly? Maybe a fly that's a foot long, right? Any other guesses for this? And then I'll give us a clue. Now, when you said a fly whacker, you know that it does have to whack something possibly. Now, it is going to whack something. I see mold, I see rake. Now, first, let's try to guess, what would I be whacking? Ooh, I have actually, the correct guesses came out there. So I have a couple here, Olivia Gonzalez, if that's your name. You had actually guessed rug beater, and a couple others. Kelly Matthews guessed it, and so did Finn Calhoun. So a rug beater. So let's take a look at this. I have this lovely rug right over here that I usually keep in my own hallway. And this is literally a rug beater. So you can kind of assume we're gonna beat this rug, right? Now, why would I beat a rug? Can anyone tell me why I would even want to beat a rug? I mean, I could be pretty stressed and want to beat up my rug, but that's usually not going to be the case. You can guess for me why I would be beating a rug. Ooh, right off the bat, a lot of you had guessed, about 4 or 5 of you said to clean it, to get the dust off. That's exactly what it is, right? So if I had a dusty, dirty rug, I would go ahead and beat this. Now, usually I would take it outside first because that dust is not going to be good settling in the house, and it would just make my rug and floor all dirty again. Now, can you all tell me, what do we use to clean our rugs today? Vacuums. That is a good answer. Yes, that's exactly what we use to clean our rugs today. Now, crazy enough, people were beating the rugs all the way into the 1980s. Now, that might sound like a long, long time ago to a lot of you, but that's when I was born in the 80s. So it's baffling to think that anyone would be beating their rugs in the 1980s instead of using a vacuum cleaner. But let's think about that. Now, what do vacuum cleaners use that a rug beater won't use? Let's see, the rug beater doesn't take much more than me just pulling it out right here, right? Ooh, I see a power cord. And that's correct. Our vacuum cleaners use electricity. But I have something to show you right over here. Now, what if I told you there was a vacuum cleaner that didn't use electricity? Has anyone seen a vacuum cleaner like this before? You can see there is no cord coming from it. So how does a vacuum vacuum without a cord? Now, just like beating a rug, you're gonna have to put some work into it. And Audrey, that's perfect. You have put a pump, and that's exactly what you do. You have to create your own vacuum. So here's my rug from home right here. And you see this part right here? Well, you would pull that loud noise. Vacuum cleaners apparently weren't always loud. So this is me creating a vacuum. Now, do you think this would go slower or faster than a vacuum cleaner today? Slower, right? Now, crazy enough, what do you think might be faster, a rug beater or this vacuum cleaner all the way from 1911? You're right. I see Alex had put it on there. Well, the rug beater actually would be much faster. When before electricity, vacuum cleaners really did not work that well. And it wasn't until the 1950s that people were really starting to vacuum with things like an electric vacuum cleaner. So that is cleaning a rug. Now, how many of you can tell me that doing the dishes is your favorite thing to do? Does anyone love doing dishes? Oh, I see a Madison. Oh, loves doing dishes, because I do not like doing dishes, that's for sure. But before I show you some old things, I have this old book here, all the way from the 1870s and 80s. And you can actually see here, it's called the Everyday Cookbook. Now, let's say that I made some dishes here, made some dirty dishes, but I wanted to show you this one recipe that I found here. You might be able to tell it says corn mush. So you can see that corn mush might have been something that I was making, but let's say that we had to clean our pan. So today I have a pan, I have my sponge, and then a lot of you, if you're not using a dishwasher, might be using something like Dawn soap, right? Well, in this time period, they're not going to be using Dawn soap. So what am I going to do with this? Does anyone know? What does this look like? A washboard, that's a good guess. Cheese scraper or a cheese grater, right? This looks exactly like a cheese grater, right? And you can see these parts here. I would shave off those. Let's see, to rub off the food, we got a grater again. Now, if anyone can type in what this says. I'm gonna zoom it in here. Can anyone read what this says? Let's see, maybe you can't see it. Ooh, Audrey got it. Soap shaver. A soap shaver. Now, has anyone ever heard of a soap shaver before? Because I can tell you, before I started working at the museum, I didn't. Audrey, it's pretty cool you've heard of a soap shaver. But this is literally not for grating cheese. It's almost like I'm going to grate soap. So if they didn't have this lovely liquid soap, what we'd have to do is we would have to get a bar of soap, just like this right here, and they would actually have to scrape this right here to get all these little flakes. And that is what you would use to put in your dishwater. So we're seeing right now that obviously having to shave your soap, having to beat your rug, or having to pull a crank on a vacuum cleaner, do you think that cleaning your house is easier or harder in this time period, 100 years ago? Harder, right? There's just a lot more work going into a lot of these. And when I learned about a soap shaver, that really made me think, wow, that is really hard work if I have to shave my soap. All right. So now that I finished making my corn mush, now I feel like having something to drink maybe. Now, what is this thing? This thing might look similar to something you've seen before. Anyone have any guesses right away? Ooh, Audrey, you really know what's up here because this is all cast iron and this is a citrus squeezer, and I also see lime juicer, lemon squeezer. Um, I see pizza cutter, but this is actually a citrus press. So it's for limes, juice or limes, lemons, anything like this. So see here, I have this lovely lime half right here. And just like most of our things today, you would have this here, that I would put in here right here, and I'd squeeze that into, my glass, into something right here to make any kind of juice, lemon, well, let's see. All right, I have juiced this old lime that has been sitting in my fridge for a second. So there you go. Now, there's a couple other things here. All right, so any questions on any of those objects so far? So we've seen a rug beater. We have seen a vacuum cleaner from 1911. We have seen a soap shaver. And we have seen a citrus press. Now, one last thing for us today. Comes in pieces. Now, I have this right here. This just looks like a pot that I would clean, right? Let's see here. So we have a container with a hook. Now, I have all of these things in here. Now, right away, does anyone have any guesses of what I'm going to put in all these things? Or what this might be for? Water. I guess you could have all of your glasses of water ready to go. Ooh, Sally, I am very impressed. She had said to me privately You have the right answer, Sally. I'm going to let you know, but does anyone else know? And then I'm going to tell everyone what Sally was able to guess in a second. Let's see. Do you think it might say anything on any of these? Let's see. I see food. Remember, Sally has the right answer, and I'm going to tell us soon. Now, it's going to be really hard to see. Even in person, it's hard to see. Now, you might be able to see what's on there. Can anyone see what it says? If you can't, that's totally fine. Let's see. Now, I'm going to start spelling it, and maybe someone will guess. Cinnamon. What does that spell? Cinnamon, right? So Sally was the one who privately messaged me originally, and she said spices almost right away. So good job. Because especially if you're traveling to Colorado in the 1860s, well, you got to take everything with you. And one of the things that they would have had, a lot of these pails would have been very commonly lunch boxes. But sometimes if you had to travel all the way across the country, you had to make sure you could bring all of your precious spices with you. So has anyone had food without salt before? Food without salt? I don't know. If you haven't, you would know if you had food without salt, right? You need some spices, salt, pepper. So people that would travel, horse and wagon, would be able to bring all of their spices with them. And this one was very fancy. You could have them all labeled there. But those are our things today. So now I'm going to make some more corn mush later. So I hope you all enjoy that recipe as well. But any last questions before we wrap it up for today?
Madison had a question that I saw go by earlier, which is, why not put the whole bar of soap in when you're washing your dishes?
That's a good question. Now, why wouldn't I put my whole bar of soap in? Anyone have a guess? Now, Madison, what if this was my only bar of soap? Do you think I'd want to use all of my soap for one round of dishes? Truth is no. I might not be able to go to the store to get soap even now. I only go once a week, and it's only if I need it. So I'm only going to use a little bit of soap at a time, just so I don't waste it, just like Sally had said. Any other questions that I might have missed or didn't see from before?
I also like David's idea about not getting our soap bar dirty, is that you're only using a little bit. Yeah, I think that's a great.
Yes, right? You might get it greasy and weird. So you want to keep your soap bar clean so you don't get any of that on anything else. All right, well, it's been really fun, you all. I hope if we have another history mystery, I got a couple more objects in the future. We'll see what your schedule looks like. But I'm going to put back on some music soon. But does Josie have anything to say?
Yeah, actually, thanks all for joining us this morning. I hope that you got to explore some fun new objects and make some connections to things you have in your own house.